My name is Praneeth Namburi, and I'm a postdoctoral associate with Luca Daniels Group at MIT, EECS, and I work on human movement. Specifically, we look at how dancers move, and our investigation of human movement is inspired by how dancers produce efficient and elegant movements. Aristotle once famously said, the whole is more than the sum of its parts. We apply it to human movement and we try to understand the principles. And if I had to paraphrase it, I would say human movement is more than muscles actuating bones. When we watch a professional athlete in action, or a gymnast or a dancer, we don't need to have any training to appreciate how well they move and how effortless they make their movement seem. We have a hypothesis on how dancers produce this, and this is the idea that they use all of their joints efficiently. Most of us, what we do is we tend to produce movements by holding some joints in place and producing movements only with few other joints. However, dancers are able to exploit their whole body. And this is one of the foundational hypotheses that we are testing. And to do this, we are looking at human movements and studying muscle responses and trying to apply this to many different fields. Some of the most interesting questions come from the generalizability. So many different fields of movement have developed based on certain assumptions. So for example, in biomechanics, we usually tend to model bones and muscles in the forms. You've all seen robots, and you can see how robots move, and we can tell that they're very different from how humans move, right? And so the question is, what are the foundational principles that are different from, let's say, biomechanics to dancing? We are hoping that our model, which we call the stretch stabilization model of movement, will provide a common language or framework across all movement disciplines. So for example, we learn to read and write as kids in school, right? We systematically learn how alphabets and how to construct words and sentences. But when it comes to movement, we are simply left to our own devices. That's because we don't know what the alphabet is and what the words are, and how to meaningfully construct those words into sentences. And our research is starting from the top level, where we think this is the principle, this is the grammar of movement, and then we drill down to say, okay, once we have the grammar, maybe these are the different components that make up the words. And that's how we are trying to build this generalizable principle or language for movement that can form a common basis to further interdisciplinary research. One application that I'm super excited about is this is personal, is using our research findings and applying it to the area of neuroscience. So for example, currently there is a huge divide between models of how organisms behave and models of single cell function. It's not obvious how to bridge these different subdisciplines, so to speak. When it comes to movement, we understand really well how neurons connect to muscles and how they influence the muscles. But we are basically trying to, at the moment, many research efforts are being directed towards putting many of these together and trying to understand how to control them, and in the process trying to understand how the brain is controlling the body. And however, we are going from the opposite direction. We believe that there is an organizing principle, and from the principle we are trying to construct a controller to organize organism level movement. And this application for neuroscience, I think, would be invaluable, because especially given how deep networks and has impacted the neuroscience of visual system, and the neuroscience of visual system has impacted artificial intelligence, we hope to be able to do something very similar in the field of movement and motor neuroscience.